So we're entered in an exciting time at Graybug Vision. We've just started a clinical trial that will allow us to inject once every 6 months, hopefully multiple targets on the VEGF pathway so we can block the cascade of angiogenesis in patients with wet AMD. The technology was originally developed out of the Johns Hopkins University, and we've subsequently developed that into a platform technology that allows us to dose not only once every 6 months, but we're also developing a once-a-year therapy for wet AMD as an additional product in our portfolio. I think we understood pretty clearly that we didn't want to be just a drug delivery company, so we've really focused on building a product platform, and we've done that through our prodrug technology, which I'll give you a brief update on today. We actually have over almost 200 compounds that we've gone through screening process now and identified for both glaucoma and potentially also for DME. And so we'll be expanding our product portfolio over the next 6 to 12 months. In addition, as many people have mentioned today, we have the benefit of a very experienced team in ophthalmology, and we'll actually be announcing in December some very significant additions to that team as well. So I think everyone pretty well understands the treatment burden in this room, and I think it's really important that you understand the quantitative market research that we've done and others have done has really demonstrated that giving more than one injection in the eye and every 6 months is going to be a very significant challenge. Retinal ophthalmologists are already overwhelmed, not only here in the United States where we've surveyed 200 US retinal ophthalmologists, but also in Japan where we've met with over 20 Japanese retinal ophthalmologists, and all of them are complaining that they're spending their entire weeks almost injecting patients with wet AMD, DME, and RVO. So if we can reduce the treatment burden on these patients and also on the physicians to twice-a-year dosing, this would be a significant advance for both the patients and the physicians. So how does our technology work? We incorporate the drug into a PLJ polymer type system. The unique thing here is there's actually a drug suspension that we can inject, and then it forms a depot in the eye. The image on the bottom right-hand side here is what we think we'll see in humans, and we actually have seen this now in many patients. And I'm happy that next year we'll be able to show you some images of this. But once you inject the depot into the eye, it forms a globular-like structure, sort of like a Hershey's Kiss. It stays in the bottom inferior part of your eye in the vitreous. It doesn't obscure the visual axis. Patients don't notice it. It doesn't seem to move in the patients we've treated so far. And it also has no adverse effects in the patients. So I think it's pretty exciting that it looks like our technology is working. And then on the left-hand side is actually an animal study which we did, and I've shown this before. We were able to show that we get very high levels in the retina, the RPE, and the choroid. And this is due not only to the fact that the drug release is happening over 6 months, but also because it binds melanin. And so we're getting a secondary reservoir effect of having the drug reside in the melanin granules in the back of the eye. So another advantage of the drug that we've selected for this initial product. And that drug is Sunitinib. Sunitinib actually targets multiple pathways of the VEGF cascade. So we believe by blocking multiple pathways with a single agent, instead of having to give multiple injections, we could have a significant efficacy benefit over the existing anti-VEGF therapies. In addition, the drug has been shown to have neuroprotective and photoreceptor protective activities. So long-term treatment of these patients may be beneficial so they don't continue to lose visual acuity over the several years of treatment. The interesting thing about this drug is when you take it orally, so the approved name is Sutent, it actually accumulates in the melanin granules in the uveal tract in the eye. And so it's been shown in animals and in humans that this accumulation doesn't cause any ocular toxicity. And so we're pretty certain that our drug alone will not have any safety signals. So the question is then, is there any examples where wet AMD patients have been treated with oral Sunitinib or Sutent? And the answer is yes. That Charles Simber, our chief medical officer, has found a couple of relevant examples. So on the top here is a patient that came in with wet AMD, was treated with 3 injections of Lucentis, and then was no longer treated, went away, came back with a renal cell carcinoma, went on Sutent as a therapy for his renal cell carcinoma. The ophthalmologist imaged them. On baseline, you can see a lot of fluid in the retina at month 7, and then 1 month on oral Sutent, you can see almost complete resolution of the fluid in the retina. So again, Sunitinib gets to the eye when you take it orally and has an effect directly on the retina. The side effect of taking Sutent is cardiovascular and hepatotoxicity, so it's not a viable option to treat these patients, but by repackaging it on our depot system and locally administering it, we think we can have a better effect. And then on the bottom is a case where a patient actually had an ocular metastasis from the renal cell carcinoma, and again was treated with oral sunitinib. And you can see that the little nubbin there on the image goes away over time with oral treatment. So again, the sunitinib is getting to the eye and actually having an anti-angiogenesis effect. So our target product profile is to achieve once every 6-month dosing in patients with wet AMD without any significant differences in safety and also non-inferiority on efficacy. So the way we're testing this right now in our clinical trial is actually a switching study that just was initiated very recently, where we're switching patients that are currently on an anti-VEGF therapy. When they would normally come back in for their next anti-VEGF injection, they're getting an injection of our drug, and then we're following them monthly with OCTs and safety assessments. I'm happy to say that so far this has been well tolerated. We actually had no AEs at all to date, and we're seeing some really interesting changes on OCT for these patients. Once we get to the endpoint of demonstrating 6 months of durability, we'll select doses from the first part of the study, and then we'll do a very robust non-inferiority study against aflibercept. So this study is well-powered and could potentially count as one of our pivotal studies. So I'll just leave you with the very last comment on what I said before. We're trying to build a diverse product portfolio here in ophthalmology. So we realize we can't do that just with the drug delivery system. So we're combining our drug delivery system with a whole library of different compounds that are compatible with our system. So you can't just take any small molecule and put it into a delivery system. Sometimes you have to optimize that molecule, and that's what we've done here. So we started with single agent compounds. We have some outflow drugs that we think are pretty effective for potential treatment of glaucoma, and again, once every 6 months treatment. And then we have some interesting compounds where we've combined inflow and outflow drugs together. So this would be a first-in-class single agent that controls inflow and outflow, and again, through our depot technology, once every 6-month administration. And then lastly, we actually have a neuroprotective agent that we can couple to an inflow or outflow agent, and we've made several of these compounds and we're currently screening them. So we could potentially get neuroprotection and IOP reduction from a single agent. So just the near-term milestones as the last slide. We've basically been able to initiate that trial. We'll have 6-month data showing hopefully the validation of what I said for the target product profile by the second quarter of next year. And then we'll be starting our glaucoma program next year as well, and we should have that in the clinic by early 2019. Thank you very much for your attention.